In the vast expanse of history, we face an insurmountable challenge in the classroom, an impossibility of capturing every intricate detail within the limited confines of an academic year. The teaching of history is a Herculean task, for there are countless perspectives, viewpoints, and involved parties to consider. Recognizing this inherent limitation, I set out on a personal quest to shed light on two crucial viewpoints that seemed often overlooked. The first viewpoint lies within the very fabric of my surroundings, Rochester, New York, an area rich with its own history and complexities. Seeking to uncover the local impact and perspectives during the Civil War, simultaneously, I sought to unravel the intricate decisions faced by Native American populations across the nation, decisions that would shape their involvement in the war. To gain deeper insights, I reached out to Dr. Lawrence Hauptman, a respected historian and professor emeritus at the State University of New York at New Paltz. Representing the New York State Archives, Dr. Hauptman provided invaluable perspectives on the complex choices Native American communities had to navigate during this tumultuous time. Their involvement in the war and the broader impacts on their populations revealed a nuanced tapestry of challenges and sacrifices. To craft this narrative, I delved into original documents, letters, and maps preserved within the National Archives and the New York State Archives. Additionally, the book Where They Fell served as a guiding light, offering a deeper understanding of the untold stories of the Civil War. Now, let us embark on this journey by first hearing from Brandon Fess, as he unveils the profound impact of Rochester on the war through personal accounts, examples of the city's role as a civil rights hub, and the empowering voices of Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony. Following that, we will delve into the personal experiences and wider ramifications of the war on Native American populations, guided by the wisdom of Dr. Lawrence Hauptman. In illuminating these perspectives, my aim is to weave together a tapestry of history that incorporates the complexities and nuanced decisions made by both the people of Rochester and Native American communities. Let us now embark on this voyage of discovery, embracing the untold stories that shape our collective heritage. Now, let us turn our attention to Brandon Fess, who will delve into the nuanced effects of the war on Rochester, New York. Drawing from personal accounts of the war and the prevailing climate surrounding slavery among the residents of Rochester, Brandon will provide us with a deeper understanding of the local impact. His insights will shed light on how the war shaped the lives and perspectives of those in the community, revealing the intricate tapestry of experiences and sentiments that unfolded during this transformative era. Through Brandon's narrative, we will gain a vivid glimpse into the profound effects of the war on Rochester, New York, both on an individual level and within the broader context of the city's historical landscape.
Rochester produced cavalrymen, infantrymen, light artillery, heavy artillery, sailors in the Navy, and every one of them would have had a different experience. Just to give a little more broad perspective, you would have had everything from the men who were recruited into, say, the 1st and 8th New York Cavalry, which included companies from this area, who would have seen, the glamour of being horsemen in combat and very often relatively light action, to line infantry units. Rochester produced many infantry. Infantry are the backbone of any army. 108th, 126th, 140th, 188th, many others, all had their own rough moments. You would have had anything from the 126th being taken captive en masse by Stonewall Jackson, some of the Harper's Ferry cowards of September 1862, to them, being paroled, being mocked by their peers, and then getting revenge through their actions at Gettysburg as well. Very different experience for the artillery units. I know very little about the light artillery, unfortunately. Heavy artillery, in contrast, heavy artillery was considered the easiest job in the Army. You're sent to man fixed fortifications. Unless somebody attacks the fort that you're based at, you don't see action. Except for those men who Grant turned into infantry in 1864 because he realized the garrison of D.C. was way larger than it needed to be. And a lot of the men of the 8th New York Heavy Artillery were from Rochester. Heavy artillery units were twice the size of infantry units, by the way, so they were very tempting to turn into active combat units. And so Grant turned these fully manned, veteran but not experienced in battle units into infantry, and the 8th New York was one of the ones that was thrown into action during the Overland Campaign. I know they were used in some of the assaults at Spotsylvania Courthouse. That would have been terrifying. Not just the direct action of combat, but the whole, I didn't sign up for this element of being a heavy artilleryman. And of course, there were the sailors. Not all sailors were people who had sailed before the war. And we do have stories of Rochesterians who joined the Navy. You know, naval service is its own form of difficulty. You're in a ship on open water in an age before there were really any creature comforts on shipboard. It's cold, it's wet, the food is bad most of the time. And frankly, most of the time you're at sea, you are out there just waiting and watching for, is the enemy here? Are we going to encounter anyone? Or are we going to be out at sea for 30 days, 60 days and have nothing happen? So there's a variety of experiences. It's really difficult to generalize, but the biggest thing I can say is that all of them would have dealt with privation and surprise in ways that even for men who joined up later in the war and had heard stories coming back from the front, would not really have been prepared for. But going back to what I said before in terms of manpower, oh yes. I mean, we sent something like 19% of our male population, according to the best numbers I've seen, into military service. There's a general rule when you're talking about military human resources. It's called military potential, and that's that once you send 10% of your population to war, it's going to have a serious impact on your ability to function as a society. We doubled that. So in terms of providing manpower, which again, in a true mass conflict, where you are looking at attrition and sheer weight of numbers as driving forces in conflict, yeah, we played a huge role. We played a huge role. Undoubtedly, that was Frederick Douglass's impact on the war. And I'm not talking here about the broad impact of, you know, leading abolitionists, et cetera, et cetera. I'm talking about the specific impact of Douglass, who very much was a Rochester resident still during the Civil War period, going to DC and getting Lincoln's ear to discuss the issues of recruiting African-American soldiers. It's really beyond a shadow of a doubt that Douglass's drive to get the Union to start recruiting both free men of color and freed slaves for the Army both played a huge role in that happening. Douglass's role as a Rochesterian can't be discounted here, and the community of abolitionists and anti-slavery activists here that empowered such activities was very real. I mean, people in Rochester fought for the same reasons that people fought across the country. Perhaps the percentages of those reasons were different, because yes, there were people who were joining up for the bounties, which could be hundreds of dollars. That's tens of thousands today. Land grants in the West, things like that. But based on research, there's been a lot of research on this topic in the past couple of decades trying to really definitively nail down why did men fight. The driving reason was a belief that slavery was either, if you were a Southerner, something to be supported, or a Northerner, something that was an American ill. Now, the ways in which people thought about that varied a lot. You notice I talk about anti-slavery and abolition. Those were two different things in the language of the time. Far more people were anti-slavery, people who wanted to see slavery brought to an end, than were abolition, people who thought it needed to come to an end immediately. Abolition was oftentimes tied to beliefs in, for example, equal rights. A lot of anti-slavery folks would have been just as happy to see all people of African descent sent back to Africa. Their goal was to end slavery. It's a very difficult and very nuanced conversation. But what I can tell you is that the Rochester area undoubtedly had a very high proportion of people who were at the least anti-slavery, if not abolition supporters. And there would have been a lot of people who joined the military because of those views. That, of course, being on top of, and from the best evidence that's been collected by scholars like Chandra Manning, in front of also beliefs in the indissolubility of the Union and the need to restore the Union as the rightful government and maintain the Constitution as the law of an undivided United States.
Now we will turn our attention to Dr. Lawrence M. Hauptman, who will guide us through the complexities behind the decisions made by Native Americans regarding their participation in the war effort. With deep expertise in history and a focus on Native American studies, Dr. Hauptman will shed light on the multifaceted considerations and ramifications faced by Native American communities during this pivotal time. Through his insightful perspective, we will gain deeper understanding of the choices made and the impacts on the communities and the intricate dynamics that unfolded as Native Americans navigated their roles in the Civil War. Dr. Hauptman's expertise will illuminate a crucial aspect of the history often overlooked, allowing us to appreciate the rich tapestry of experiences and perspectives within the Native American communities during this transformative era.
There were many reasons, and very diverse reasons. There were treaties that provided alliance between the United States and Native people. The Tonawanda Senecas, for example, signed a treaty in 1857, a new treaty that allowed them to repurchase their land. And so Tonawanda Senecas felt an obligation to serve in the military. But economically, there was a significant amount of encouragement based on the fact that you're dealing with rather very poor communities financially, economically. And so economically, this was definitely an incentive, as it is today, to enlist. There were also, of course, ideas about tradition. Native Americans served in the War of 1812 in the Union Army, in the U.S. Army, and so the grandchildren and the children of those soldiers participated in the Civil War. It was a military tradition in certain families, so that was part of it. In other parts of the country, there were other reasons. For example, some Native Americans owned slaves. And in the Indian Territory, for example, that is now the state of Oklahoma, for example, there were Cherokees and others who were slaveholders and fought on the side of the Confederacy. There were also, of course, Native Americans of African American descent, which is usually not usually known, but there was a large number of Native Americans, especially in New England and in southern areas, that joined the Union Army because of their identification with the idea of freedom for both black people and better days for Native Americans.
In conclusion, our exploration of the Civil War's impact on Rochester, New York, and the complex decision faced by Native American populations has revealed a rich tapestry of history that extends beyond the traditional narratives. By delving into the personal accounts, local perspectives, and profound choices made during this time, we have gained the deeper appreciation for the intricate web of experiences and the far-reaching consequences of the war. Through the expertise of Brandon Fess, we discovered the profound influence of Rochester on wartime affairs and its significant role as a hub for civil rights. The personal accounts and prevailing sentiments about slavery among Rochester residents provided a window to the complexities of the era. Dr. Lawrence Hauptman's insights have illuminated the nuanced decisions made by Native American communities regarding their involvement in the war, as well as the broader ramifications on their populations. These perspectives highlight the diverse experiences and intricate dynamics within the Native American communities during this transformative period. By weaving together these overlooked perspectives, we have expanded our understanding of the Civil War, recognizing the importance of local history and the complexities faced by diverse communities. Our journey has been guided by original documents, letters, maps, and the invaluable resources provided by the National Archives and the New York State Archives and the Library of Congress. Through this exploration, we have sought to honor the untold stories and amplify the voices that have often been silenced in traditional narratives. It is through these nuanced accounts that we can truly comprehend the profound impact of the war on both Rochester and Native American communities. May this glimpse into history serve as a reminder that the full breadth of our collective past is vast and ever-evolving. It is our duty to continue uncovering, examining, and embracing the diverse perspectives that shape our understanding of the world. As we move forward, let us carry these lessons with us, fostering a more inclusive, comprehensive narrative of history for generations to come. Thank you for watching.